By the way, those calls might have changed now people take one look at his new cabinet. But should Sunak take on Starmer at the ballot box? Or does the country need a PM to just get on with the job? Joining me now is former newspaper editor Neil Wallis, who believes there should not be a general election, and political consultant Emma Burnell, who is keen to have one. Thank you very much. Emma, I'll start with you. I would not for a single second begin to presuppose your political allegiances. Not that I really need to. I've met you a few times before.
That used to be contributing editor of Labour List. I think the cat's out the bag.
Yeah, it is. It was out a while ago. I was just doing you a couple of favours there. But no, Emma, you were keen for a general election when we booked you on to have this debate. Are you as keen to have one now we've started to see this cabinet wander through the door?
God, yeah. Yeah. Parade of has-beens. Absolutely. Bring it on.
Yeah, go on, just elaborate on that, really, because clearly there will be a bit of a bounce when it comes to this, certainly with Tory party members who were a bit homeless before for a day or two.
Yes, I'm absolutely sure you're right that Tory party members, all 160-odd thousand of them, might also go back to voting Tory. That's not going to be quite enough to get Rishi over the line.
Okay.
I mean, the truth is, we don't constitutionally have to have a general election. That's not how our constitution's written, and I get that. But I do think that the next 18 months, which are going to be very, very difficult, the idea that you can both deliver on the 2019 general election manifesto and do the kind of incredibly tough spending cuts that they are talking about, those two things don't balance. And so they need a mandate for one or the other, and they don't have a mandate for the latter.
All right, what's really interesting, I'll tell you what, I'll just bring you in now. Neil Wallis, former newspaper editor, is if... just getting it through my ear now, Grant Shapps is leaving. Grant Shapps has just left Downing Street. He is, of course, our business secretary. Back to our discussion now. Neil Wallis, former newspaper editor. If Rishi Sunak... Oh, yeah, that's another one. I can't quite see who he is from where I'm sitting, I'm afraid. I'll bring you that in a bit. Neil Wallis, back to you for the third and final time. I'm not getting cut off again, all right? I'm not. Neil Wallis. So, if Rishi does actually pull this off, OK, and he's got people like Raab at Justice, Brexiteer, Ben Wallace, seen as strong and stable in terms of Defence Secretary, Braverman as Home Secretary, she unequivocally cares about immigration, both legal and illegal. Kemi Badenoch's in there now. Now, Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor calms the market. Has he actually, James Cleverly, Foreign Secretary, has he actually created a cabinet that does align closely with that 2019 manifesto, therefore giving him a mandate, therefore giving him public popularity, and therefore no need for a general election?
Yes. Got it in one, in truth. What he's done is prove the basis of the British Constitution, which is that you elect a party. We do not have a presidential system. Plainly, whoever leads a political party makes a huge difference. But we do not go into the polling booth and vote and tick a box that says either Conservative Party or whoever the leader of that party is. We vote for our local MPs, and that's the way it always has been, and that's the way it should be. And of course, this is a complete cant from the Labour Party, who they know fine well. There was a chap, I don't know whether you remember him, called Gordon Brown, who became Prime Minister exactly the same way. Before that, I seem to remember many years ago, there was a bloke called Harold Wilson got Prime Ministership in exactly the same way. Okay. What Rishi Sunak has done here is completely legitimate. It's completely wise. And I think, as you're pointing out, he is lining up a whole batch of people who totally justify that manifesto.
Well, I must say, Emma, I'll be honest about this with the nation. I sat here this time yesterday and I was bang in favour of a general election. I thought we're looking at something now that's a bit undemocratic. I thought, and I still do think there is, by the way, a fantastic cracking case for a general election. Don't get me wrong. But now we've actually seen a cabinet being put together, part of me's like, well, let them have a go first, and then we'll see what we're voting for. Because at the moment, we don't know. It's a cabinet of unknowns.
Well, it's not a cabinet of unknowns. That's your point, isn't it? You know them all. We know how much they've already messed it up. I mean, Neil's right. There's no constitutional reason to have one, but politically, if I were a Tory, I would not call in favour Gordon Brown as the reason to call off an election that people want, because we all know what happened to his poll ratings as soon as the election that didn't happen. That's when he tanked. And he was looking. The reason he called off that election, the reason he never went for it, is he thought he might lose a few marginals. That's not how it ended up.
Well, well, Emma's raised a really good point there. No, Emma's raised a really good point there, because actually it is a cabinet of all right, not necessarily in their jobs apart from Solly Bradman, but it is a cabinet of knowns. So actually, I suppose we could have a general election. Maybe we do know what we're voting for.
Well, I think there's a bizarre rewriting of history about what happened to Gordon Brown there. Gordon Brown didn't go for an election because he had an unpublished opinion poll, and I know because I commissioned it, that told him he was going to lose his entire cabinet and he was going to completely tank. And he changed his mind on that vote, let me tell you, in one morning. It was a Saturday morning as well, because I was there. Anyway, go back to the basic point. What we have here is politics. What we have is the fact that no party, if the Labour Party or the Lib Dems were in this position, there is no way they would go for a general election after the events of the last few weeks and in this febrile atmosphere. You would have a bigger argument, I think, in 6 months. What we're going to see here is the market's going to calm and the whole situation is going to cool right down.
OK, Neil Wallis, thank you very much, former newspaper editor, thinking that there should not be a general election. Emma Burnell, very key for a general election. Good stuff. A conversation that's going to rumble on, frankly, is going to rumble on. No doubt we'll have to do this again. Thank you.